Let's start with something nobody seems to talk about. When people discuss attraction, the conversation usually goes one way. Men like curves, women like eyes, smiles, maybe confidence. But what if I told you that science shows women are definitely checking out men's butts? Yes, seriously. The male butt, the humble pair of glutes, has quietly become one of the most underrated objects of desire in human evolution. And if that sounds funny, that's because it is. But it's also fascinating. Because behind this seemingly trivial preference hides a story about survival, movement, and even power. Let's rewind a few thousand years, back to when your ancestors were running barefoot across the savannah. The human gluteus maximus, our main butt muscle, evolved to be unusually large compared to other primates. It's one of the key reasons Homo sapiens became such an efficient long-distance runner. Without it, we'd wobble like penguins. So when a woman looks at a man's butt, part of her brain isn't just thinking, nice shape. It's registering something deeper: stability, strength, endurance. In evolutionary terms, a strong glute means a strong body, a capable hunter, someone who can run, carry, and survive. In other words, biology made us subconsciously associate a well-shaped butt with reliability. Now, of course, modern humans aren't chasing gazelles. But our brains still carry that ancient operating system. We think we're swiping on Tinder, but the brain thinks we're selecting breeding partners for the next ice age. That's why attraction often feels irrational, because it is. It's a set of prehistoric algorithms running quietly in the background, pretending to be personal taste. So why butts specifically? Well, think about it. The male butt sits right at the crossroads of two powerful visual cues: posture and motion. A good posture, upright, balanced, confident, depends on strong glutes. They literally hold the spine in place. And when someone walks, that subtle rhythm of movement, that sense of grounded power, is the body's way of saying, I can move, I can act, I'm capable. From an evolutionary standpoint, that's a big deal. Because long before words or dating apps, movement was communication. The way someone carried themselves was how you judged their fitness, their vitality, even their emotional state. A graceful, balanced gait said, I'm in control. A slouched, awkward one said, maybe not so much. So yes, a woman noticing a man's butt isn't superficial. It's deeply encoded pattern recognition. Of course, culture complicates everything. For most of recorded history, male beauty wasn't supposed to be a thing. Society told men to be strong, not look strong. And it told women to be the ones who get looked at. But take a stroll through art history, and you'll see that the ancient Greeks didn't exactly agree. Their statues celebrated the male body, sculpted, balanced, and yes, perfectly gluted. To them, a well-shaped backside wasn't vanity. It was a symbol of harmony, discipline, and proportion. The male butt was art before it was thirst trap. Fast forward to the Renaissance, and artists like Michelangelo kept that tradition alive. David wasn't just about courage or youth. He was the embodiment of ideal form. And that ideal included the glutes. Then came the Victorian era, and things got weirdly prudish. The male body became something to cover up, not admire. Desire was privatized. Publicly, men became brains and wallets. Privately, well, not much changed. So what happened? In short, the 20th century happened. Hollywood, sports culture, and the gym revolution turned the male body back into a visual symbol. Suddenly, the heroic frame of athletes and actors became aspirational, not just for men trying to build it, but for women observing it. Marlon Brando in a tight t-shirt. James Dean leaning on a car. Brad Pitt in Fight Club. All of them embodied that same coded message: strength without aggression, form with function. And then, somewhere between Magic Mike, yoga pants for men, and the rise of Instagram fitness, the male butt officially entered pop culture. There's even a name for this in research: the gluteal fascination hypothesis. According to several studies, women consistently rank the male butt among the top 3 physical features they notice, alongside shoulders and eyes. What's interesting is why. It's not purely sexual. It's biomechanical. The glutes anchor the body, stabilize balance, and affect the way someone moves. They're like the silent engine of the human frame. So attraction to that area may not be about appearance at all, but about the movement it implies. Motion, energy, direction, these are deeply symbolic cues of vitality. When a woman's brain tracks that motion, it's not objectifying, it's detecting information. The same way you read someone's face to know their mood, your subconscious reads someone's movement to know their essence. And that's where psychology joins the party. Attraction is never just physical. It's perceptual. What we find beautiful is what we associate with potential. A man with good posture and defined movement appears confident, balanced, and dependable. And yes, that starts at the base. Because if your foundation is weak, everything above it wobbles. In that sense, the butt is both literal and metaphorical support. It holds the body upright, and symbolically, it represents emotional stability and resilience. That's not exactly the kind of thing you'd say out loud on a date, but your brain already did the math. Now let's look at the cultural mirror again. In the last few decades, something subtle but important has changed. The gaze has shifted. For centuries, men were the lookers, women the looked at. Now that balance is evening out. Women aren't just participating in visual culture, they're defining it. From social media trends to fashion aesthetics, women are now openly curating what they find attractive. And that includes the male form, unapologetically. The rise of fitness influencers, fan pages dedicated to athletes, and even humorous TikToks rating men's gym rears. They're not just jokes. They're a reflection of shifting dynamics. Women claiming the right to look, to choose, to define what's desirable. It's not just biology anymore, it's agency. But let's not pretend evolution suddenly disappeared. It's just wearing new clothes. Underneath the modern layers of culture, those old instincts still hum. When a woman glances at a man's butt in jeans, she might consciously think it's aesthetic taste, but unconsciously, her brain is still measuring proportions, movement, posture, micro signals of health and capability. That ancient pattern-matching mechanism didn't go away. It just learned to scroll Instagram. There's also a sociological layer worth mentioning. In societies where gender roles are evolving, attraction itself becomes a kind of dialogue about equality. The more women gain social and sexual agency, the more open the conversation about their desires becomes. So the fascination with the male body, including the butt, isn't just about physical appeal. It's about visibility. It's about women finally being allowed to express attraction the way men always have, openly, playfully, and sometimes with memes. That might sound trivial, but psychologically it's huge. It redefines what desire looks like when both sides get to participate. And yes, before you ask, men have their own version of this. Just as women evolved to appreciate cues of stability and endurance, men evolved to notice fertility and symmetry. Different signals, same logic. We're all walking bundles of subconscious data analysis, pretending to be in love. Let's add one more twist to this. There's growing evidence that our physical preferences reflect not just biology, but our values. In cultures that prize independence and fitness, people tend to prefer athletic bodies. In cultures that value comfort and stability, softer bodies are often idealized. So when women today admire a toned male physique, it might not just mean he's hot. It might also mean he represents control, discipline, modern vitality. In other words, the butt becomes a symbol of lifestyle. A shorthand for health, effort, even character. Because let's face it, you can't fake good posture. So what does all this tell us? That attraction, no matter how physical it looks, is never skin deep. Every preference is a fossil of ancient survival logic, repackaged in cultural fashion. The male butt just happens to be one of those rare intersections where evolution, psychology, and pop culture perfectly overlap. It's primal, symbolic, and, let's admit it, a little funny. But maybe that's the beauty of it. That something so ordinary, so human, carries such a rich story about who we are and how we got here. Because in the end, attraction isn't really about butts, abs, or cheekbones. It's about what our minds see through them. Strength, balance, vitality, maybe even trust. So the next time someone catches your eye, remember, your brain isn't shallow. It's ancient. It's been scanning postures and proportions for hundreds of thousands of years, trying to find the right mix of survival and poetry. Maybe that's what love is, at its most primitive level. A perfectly synchronized glitch in evolution, where biology meets beauty. And sometimes, that just happens to be behind us.
There's a llama in my head, wearing sunglasses.